everybody. Happy new week. I hope you're doing amazing. And I have to say, I am back from a month on the Gold Coast, back into my office now in Melbourne. And next to me, I have another Melbourne author who has recently come up hot off the press. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Nat.
I'm so excited to talk about your book today. Absolutely love what you've created and what you have done. So let's give everyone the official introduction as to who you are, and then we'll get stuck into the conversation. So here on our screen, guys, we can see Kelly's book. So guys, Kelly commenced her career as a midwife as one of the first Bachelor of Midwifery students in Australia. Studying at Victoria Uni, Kelly and 52 other trailblazers were to become the new breed of midwives. Her career had covered many aspects of midwifery, including working as a private practicing midwife, where she gained Medicare eligibility, providing home birth and postnatal home visiting services, creating 2 private midwifery clinics, to working in large metropolitan hospitals as a clinical midwife. She became an educator of midwives at Canberra University and has gone on to working in Australia's first postnatal hotel. Her career within midwifery has spanned over 25 years. Her first book is based on her career. This book offers an intimate look at the highs and lows of a career dedicated to bringing life into the world. Wow. All right. So, Kelly, how did this all come about? Give us the I guess the backstory of it all.
Well, I guess what you just read in my bio, Nat, I have been a midwife for about 25 years now, and being one of the first group of midwives that were trained basically to do what's called continuity of care. So previously midwives were always nurses, and the group that went through this first lot of university and also coming back into universities opposed to midwives and nurses being trained in hospitals, we were trained very differently. So we were trained to really look after women from beginning of pregnancies right through to ends into the postnatal period, opposed to just meeting them in the hospital, possibly being there for their labor and birth, and then sort of kicking them out of the hospital. So my career kind of started out in that absolute continuity of being with that woman all the way through. And obviously my career spanned, excessive amounts of time and lots of different aspects of midwifery. And I had lots of people always say to me, you should write a book. You must have lots of amazing stories to tell. And yes, of course, I do have lots of amazing stories to tell and lots of beautiful births to write about. But I decided to write the book a little bit on a very different side, I guess. And I guess also not necessarily about the beauty of birth. I wanted to write a book about the trauma and what happens behind the scenes and what happens when a midwife deals with that and deals with the trauma and sees the awful things that happen in the background of childbirth. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write the book, is to tell the truth.
Yeah, because it's not always just perfect, right?
No.
What are some of the things that you have seen happen, like examples of types of trauma that have happened?
Look, I guess it is all in the book, but a lot of the stories that I tell are about the traumatic experiences that women go through. So postpartum hemorrhages, stillborns, babies obviously being very unwell when they're born. I do write a lot about the last part of my career as a practicing midwife in a hospital through the pandemic as well. So through the COVID pandemic, as a midwife was very tough. It was very difficult to make connections with people. We did a lot of our work, which is very personalized and very intimate, over Zoom calls. We also were wearing full PPE when we were working with women in labour and birth. And that included a shield, a mask, a pair of goggles, a full length gown that went to my feet. I was covered, my hands were covered, my face was covered, my feet were covered. Everything apart about me was physically disconnected from a woman, which is very unusual in my career, that I've never had that disconnection with women. I've always touched, I've always felt, I've always hugged, I've always loved on a woman in regards to caring for them through their labors and births. And yeah, through the pandemic, that changed a lot. And again, that the trauma that both midwives and women went through in dealing with that while they were giving birth to their babies.
Yeah, that's, yeah. I never thought about it that way, you know, I mean, of course, we knew that the hospitals were overwhelmed and nurses were, but the intimacy and personal experience that you would want to have at one of the most important times of your life. And for you, you know, doing your job, I mean, I'm sure for you, it wasn't just a job, because it was such a personal connection with each of the soon-to-be mums, right?
Yeah. And look, I've never really seen this as a job, Nat. Like I've lived and breathed this my whole entire life and my whole entire career. And for me, it never really seemed like a job. Like weirdly, I loved getting out of bed at, 1 o'clock in the morning and getting dressed and getting in a car and zooming off to somebody's home or a hospital to meet them while they're in labor. I loved having those phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning when someone's, started contractions or their waters had broken. Just some of those things I wanted to write about them. I wanted to tell people what that felt like and what that really was like to be on the end of that phone, and that level of excitement, fear, anxiety, and everything else that goes along with that. To actually, as I say, to get out of my bed at 3 in the morning, in the middle of the night, in the middle of winter, when everybody else is sleeping, I'm heading into a space that's really intimate and beautiful, and we're the only people who know that's happening. So
yeah. Isn't it funny that babies get born most of the time in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
I know with my two were 2 out of 3 were in the middle of the night. The other one had to be induced, so it's like still labored throughout the night. So yeah. Who is this book ideal for? Who would get value from reading it? Is it for midwives? Is it for women overall?
Look, I think both. You hit the nail on the head there. I think technically it's for everybody. I did write the book very much on a scale of anybody could read it, anybody could understand it, anybody could resonate with it. Women and people who may not have even had children yet, people who have had children many, many years ago. I wrote the book because, as I said, I really wanted midwives, also my colleagues in particular, to be, I guess, validated and to feel like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one who goes home feeling like that. I'm not the only one who feels like I couldn't do enough tonight, or I couldn't help that woman. Or on the flip side of that, how amazing, what an incredible job I have, what an incredible thing that I have. And so many people, and as I do say in the book, so many people, when they meet me, they say, oh, wow, you don't look like a midwife, or, oh, wow, it must be the most incredible job in the world. You must love babies. Of course I love babies. Why would I do this job if I didn't? But it's not really about that. It's actually about being a midwife is actually being with a woman, being with women. It's about, supporting a woman, being there to listen to her cry, being there to listen to her, feel the most incredible feelings that she feels when she feels her baby move inside her belly for the first time. It's such a honor, if I can use that word. And I did wear this title as a midwife as a badge of honor for a very, very long time. But it also became really tarnished as well. I found that working as a midwife in the system as it currently is devastating. And it really hurts to know that what we're doing in the system to women these days, and putting them on these treadmills, and forcing women to have babies at certain times because of the risk factors that are perceived, that's really hard. That's a hard thing to continue down along that path. And I struggle with that. I do. And I guess it's probably just because of who I am and where I've come from and the type of work that I've always done. I found it very difficult to fit my job to a box. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some things that, you talk about being treated into the what is lacking in the system that we need more of? Or how can it improve?
Care and time. And I think listening to women is also another massive aspect of our maternity system that is missing. It's a massive part of the puzzle that's missing. I found the system doesn't necessarily listen to what women are saying. They're not listening to what women want either. So when a woman says, I don't think my baby's ready to be born at 38 weeks and, 3 days, just because the system says that I should have a baby at that point. So yeah, it's a really tricky thing to kind of get over, is that they're just not listened to. And that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. So taking more time, I mean, I guess, is there enough midwives in the system, or is like...
Look, there is enough midwives in the system, but I guess they're just, oh my God, I'm so sorry, my dog is barking. There is enough midwives in the system, yes, but are they midwives who actually care? Are they midwives that, I'm not saying that no midwives care, and I'm 100% that every midwife cares about a woman, but it's the system that's trained that value out of them, because there's not enough time to do that. And we have, often we are put on time frames. Like we say, well, a birth should happen between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And we're doing inductions because, our doctors need to go on holidays, or it's Christmas. And, and even myself, like my second baby was due on the 25th of December, but I was guided to have a baby on the 21st of December, because nobody wants a baby on Christmas Day, as my obstetrician said to me. So, there's so much that's kind of, as I said, I think there's a lot of the care is missing. And that's what's kind of, again, I kind of speak to a lot of midwife friends currently and tell me stories about what's happening in the system. And I mean, I've been in the system, but now I've been out for almost a year and a half, but it's still happening. And I'm not sure that it's ever really going to change. It's just, from what I can see, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, right. And you also say that midwives are human as well. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, I'm a human. I have feelings. I have, I'm real. And I think sometimes, again, the system forgets that. The system forgets, the maternity system forgets that we go home with what we saw. So for an example, and in my book, there's a chapter about a birth that happened, and a woman had a very severe postpartum hemorrhage. So lost a lot of blood post her birth. And reasons behind that, there's a dozen reasons and lots of medical reasons behind that. But one of those reasons is because this woman was induced, her labor was induced when her baby wasn't necessarily ready to be born, but because, of a perceived condition, that baby had to be born. So this woman lost a lot of blood. So I'm the one that sees that blood. I'm the one that physically cleans that blood up off the floor, off the walls, off my hands, off my clothes, out of my hair. So yeah, I go home with that, and I remember many, many times my husband would greet me at the door and say, wow, what happened? I would just be a shell of a person, because what I've watched is violence. Technically it's violence, and it's, sometimes it's, we see a lot of that on television, but we don't really see it in real life. And that's the thing that I go home with. That's the things that I crawl into bed with every night. And even things, when babies die, unfortunately, babies die. And seeing a baby die during labor and birth would have to be one of the most tragic things that I think anybody could ever experience. And hard enough as a mother, but harder as the midwife, who, again, goes home, goes to bed, and then somehow gets up the next morning and goes back to work. And that
was there support
hard.
provided? What's that?
Say that again, sorry.
Was there any support provided, like counseling or some kind of mental health support to the midwives?
No, nothing, nah. And again, this is the reason why I wrote this book, is to let the world know there is no support for that. There is no mental health check-ins. I remember many times going back to work the next day after a tragic event and no one mentioning it, no one saying, I'm really sorry that happened. Are you okay? No check-ins from managers, no check-ins from higher administrations, nothing, absolutely nothing. There's no support for us. Other medical professionals get something called clinical supervision. Nurses get it, psychologists get it, doctors get it, paramedics get it, fireys get it, police officers get it, the army gets it. But as midwives, it is not provided to us. And clinical supervision is an incredible tool to rationally talk about and guide and mentor and support what goes on in your career, what happens in your role. And yeah, it's just not, it's not accessible to midwives. And it still baffles me that we don't get that. We might get the odd, oh, here's a counselling service you could go and see if you really want to, but we really need you back on shift tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's
very clinical in itself, not care. There's no care factors from what I'm hearing.
There's no care for the carers now. So that's kind of, I guess, a big aspect of my book. It's about where's the care for the people who care. And particularly, as I said, you know, my genre is midwifery, and I've struggled. I personally, and I'm, you know, maybe I'm the only one, I don't know, but I'm sure there's many out there, and I know many midwives who do struggle, and they do tend to just go back to work tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah. It is sad, you know, and if you're feeling that way, and I'm sure you have a lot of people in your network that are in a similar situation, you guys would have had those conversations. So I guess bringing out a book is about making a stand and kind of asking for that support or help or things to change moving forward. So what is the intention now that the book is out, hot off the press? What is the intention? I know you're doing a few book launches, you know, in 3 different locations, which we'll tell you about, guys, in a minute. But what do you hope to do with it?
What I'd love to do is I'd love for some organisations who do support midwives, and particularly the Australian College of Midwives, who I have been a advocate and a member of the Australian College of Midwives for my whole entire career. I would love to see something like the Australian Nurses Union, again, who I've been a member of for my whole entire career, and thank God that I was. But I would love for them to acknowledge this. I would love to do some level of, you know, speaking at conferences. Like I've attended many midwifery conferences, and I can honestly, and very recently I attended another conference, and not once is any of this brought up. Not once is there a presenter or a speaker that talks about midwifery trauma and what happens behind the scenes. So I guess that's what I'd love to be able to do, is actually get into those kind of those sort of support services and those networks to actually start talking about it and actually have really open conversations about some of that. And how do we, and I don't think we're ever going to fix it now, to be honest. I'm not sure that we can fix it. And I'm not sure that I can fix this with one book or my story, but I'd love to kind of be able to have those kind of very open roundtable conversations with other midwives and get some support services going, get something like clinical supervision happening in the world of midwifery.
At least evolve the process of what's available to midwives a little bit further. That's why I believe with every generation we improve and evolve and fine-tune things. And we've still come a long way. I obviously come from a country that is not as advanced as Australia is. And when I look at their systems and the way nurses and, you know, midwives are treated over there, we're like on a whole other level that this will be a dream for them. But then there's another level of improvement that you can take it to, and that's why we keep evolving. And I guess writing your book and speaking actively and connecting within networks where people can make change, then that's kind of your purpose, I guess, moving forward. So so I really love that. Yeah. So talk to me about, like, how was the process of doing it? How long did it take you? Did you speak it or did you type it? And how did you find, like, going through the whole process of publishing the book?
Look, I typed it. I didn't speak it at all. I literally just started writing. Ironically, the book took me 9 months to write. I mean, obviously most pregnancies are 9 months. So it's serendipitous that that it took me that period of time. And when I tell people, because people ask me this question all the time, oh yeah, it took me 9 months. And people are like, oh, isn't that how long a pregnancy is? And I'm like, yeah, it is. So obviously there's an extra couple of months with, you know, printing, publishing, editing, all of those sorts of things. But look, I ironically started writing the book. I went on a holiday with my husband. I had finished my job at the hospital. We took 9 months off together. So my husband and I actually took a very early retirement and sort of had a bit of a sabbatical of just not working. We were very lucky that we were able to do that. We spent a lot of time at home. We went traveling. We went to Italy. We went to Bali. And when we got to Bali, my husband said to me, when are you going to write that book? And I literally just one day when we got home from Bali, I sat down at my computer and I just started writing. And I originally thought that I have notes. I have, as a midwife, as a home birth midwife for nearly 13 years, I have notes, and I have all of my previous clients. I used to make books for them, and I used to write all the things about their pregnancies and their births, and I used to physically write the story of their birth for them. And I have all those copies still. They've been traveling around with us for years. And originally I thought I would get all those notes out and I would write I didn't use one of those notes, Nat. It was out of my head. I recalled amazing births. I recalled awful births. I recalled particular events that happened in my career. I recalled personal events that happened in my career. And I wrote it. I just sat at typewriter at my computer, technically like a typewriter, and I wrote. And Darren says to me, I don't remember you ever writing in the middle of the night. And I always said that I would never do that. I wanted to write. I wanted to treat it like a job. So I pretty much got up every day. I got dressed, I went to the gym, and then I sat down at the desk and I wrote. And I would often write till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. He would be sitting making dinner, and I would be writing, and then I would close the computer and I would, you know, have a normal day. So yeah, look, I loved it. Actually, the process was incredible. And the process with you guys was phenomenal. The support, the constant phone calls and the tears, there was lots of tears, and lots of, you know, drama going on, but we got there in the end. And yeah, look, it was the most incredible process, and I can't thank you guys enough for supporting and guiding and pushing. The pushing was great. I love that. Just keep going, and we'll fix the bits at the end. The process.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying the process was absolutely incredible, and I don't think I would have actually done it otherwise. I don't know if I'd actually would have continued. And I've heard so many people who've said, oh, I started writing a book, but I never finished it. So I think having you guys behind me and that keep pushing was the best thing that ever occurred to me.
I agree with you. And we see often when books do include conversations around trauma and sensitive topics and all that, the author can feel like really raw and vulnerable to put themselves out there, and it can take a little bit longer to just like, but I'm glad that you stuck it out, you followed the steps, you kept talking to the girls in publishing, and you should be so proud. I absolutely love your cover. It's stunning, and I think anyone who's in this field of work, or maybe even is going to deal and work with a midwife should read this book, so you can understand, you can kind of step into their shoes a little bit and see what goes on, because I went through the public system, and I was so grateful, and will never forget the people who had delivered my babies. I actually ended up, can you believe this? The doctor that delivered my first child was the same doctor that delivered my second child. Now, why that's so strange is because we went through the public system, and it's not like we could guess what shift he would be on, or if he would be working in the hospital. It wasn't someone that was like, that you see regularly. I'm sure some of your clients you did see regularly, but for us, I saw a different person across the whole journey. And it was like when he walked in, oh, you guys are back 2.5 years later. It was just like magical. And the nurses and midwives that were there, absolutely, you're so grateful. You feel this such a strong connection, because I can just imagine with you having seen people through their whole pregnancy and then births and a bit after, I'm guessing, how different and more connected and intimate it would feel, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, Nat,
beautiful.
Everyone remembers their midwife. Like that's, that's an incredible thing. And so many people say to me when I talk to them, even on the street, I met someone the other day and we talked about my book. She goes, oh yes, I remember my midwife. And, she was in her 70s. So like, it's like, you always remember your midwife. And yes, I've been very lucky to kind of, like you've that experience that you've had. I've been very lucky to actually be the midwife for the one woman 3-4 times over. I have one family who actually had 3 babies with me, and then later on came back and have, their 4th baby with me. So it's it's such an incredible thing to do. And I don't regret any aspect of my career. I have loved every minute of it. I'm actually now this book is technically the last birth really that I'll probably ever do. So
yeah. I love that. Beautiful. Well, let's tell people where they can get the book. Lindy's going to post for you guys a link to a link tree, which is where going to take you to this particular page, and you can click to purchase Midwife Crisis there. It'll take you to a page that looks like this, and you can check out the book, and as well as you can check out the book launches. So there's one coming up in Prahran, Elsternwick, and in Brisbane, you guys, over the next few weeks. So if you want to go meet Kelly and get a book personally signed and one of those book launches, then by all means go and support her. Or if you know anybody that is in this space and would benefit from getting a book like this, or perhaps they're a woman who's planning to have children or is having children, that would be a really good insight for them as well. Well, congratulations. I am super, super proud and happy you have come to the other end of this journey, and I can't wait. Maybe we can reconnect in 6 to 12 months and see, kind of what are the things, that opportunities have come your way that you've developed, and can start making that change and contribution to improve the system. Not completely, I guess, overhaul it, but in some way just improve it, even if by a little bit. So thank you so much, everybody. If you need to connect with Kelly, she's on all your social media. She's tagged into this video, but I know some people are maybe watching this on YouTube or listening to it as a podcast. So just look up Midwife Crisis as your book, and you'll find Kelly, and you'll be able to connect with her. So thank you so much, and I wish you every success moving forward. See you guys.
Thanks, Nat.
Have a great week and get out there and smash it out.